Oh, there we go.
Oh, we are live.
Broadcast.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Hey,
they tell.
again.
I'm glad they tell you you're live. I hope they don't cheat and you're live before you actually are live. You know,
and then they hold it against you.
well, no, because but then they have bloopers, don't they, and things like that. And
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
good afternoon, Facebook. Yeah, we're live here. We're going to have a chat with Kenny Rye, who's a bodybuilder and a former male model. That's what it says on his thing, anyway. Yeah, so he's quite muscly. I mean, look, don't compare him with me because it's not fair. Because I'm a very, very weak footballer and an athlete. Okay, but and now that's assuming he comes on, of course, because at the moment we don't know where he is.
He's nowhere to be found.
And to apologise for not coming on at 4 o'clock.
Scheduled time.
Yeah, the scheduled time. I did come on and apologise. Kenny had a few little challenges. No big deal. But it could be that the challenges are still continuing. We don't know. So
it appears that way, doesn't it?
Yes. Anyway, welcome to the Health Angle. Anyway, so have you had a good week?
Yeah, thus far I've had a pretty good week. I've had a good training week, to be honest. I've had a very good training week. So tomorrow's it ties in perfectly with what we're talking about, what we decided we're going to talk about if in the event Kenny does not arrive. But tomorrow is my cool down day. So I've had three heavy days of training. And then tomorrow I still train, but it will be more of a relaxed cool down type of workout, just to keep the body going and keep it flexible.
So, okay, so you've been doing 3 days of heavy training. What are we talking about here when you say heavy training?
So I use a very ingenious German tool. It's called the 4D Pro. And I found it when I was living in Dubai. And it's a fantastic apparatus because you suspend it, number one. But number two, it has a bungee technology attached to it. So instead of being a fixed suspension, okay, like AKA the TRX, that kind of stuff, this has a bungee technology to it. So you bounce around a lot, you move around a lot.
Yeah.
Is Kenny coming on? Does it look like he's coming on?
Yeah, he is coming on, actually. Yeah, carry on talking for a minute. I'm going to go and get him.
So yeah, for me, I use that, and then I do my body weight training as well. But the thing is that I do like 56 sets within the space of within 40 minutes. So I've completed 56 sets of exercise within 40-minute time frame, and approximately 37 minutes of actual working out. So total, and all in all, I've just over 45 minutes per workout. And so my workouts are very quick. I don't waste time when I train. Even when I used to train in the gym, I never wasted time. I'd get in, I'd do my workout, I work hard, I warm up, do my workout, stretch, cool down, and then I'm out.
Yeah, it's funny about warm-ups because I think I probably mentioned it before because I'm a football referee for those Americans, soccer. Okay.
Soccer. And South Africans.
Yeah.
South Africans.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We actually used to call it soccer in this country. I don't know what changed. Anyway. And
probably the Americans outpaid the British Football League because American football, right? So they said we can't have two different sports be called soccer. I mean, whatever. I don't know, but yeah, they probably made a major change.
Well, in my younger years, when I was an athlete, I used to train at Crystal Palace, which used to be the centre of the athletics in Great Britain, and we used to spend probably 45 minutes warming up before the sessions because we did some heavy sessions, and then basically when I do football refereeing, we do a 10-minute warm up, and it's I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's not professional enough. You need to ease your body in before you start hitting it hard. That's my view. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but But end of that 45 minutes, I was ready to go. Oh, hang on. Looks like Kenny's here. Hang on. Hey, how you doing, Kenny?
Hey, that's a bit trickier than Zoom, isn't it?
Good morning, Kenny.
How are you,
anyway.
mate? You all right?
Yeah, we are live, by the way, Kenny. So
cool. How are you doing? I'm on my phone at the moment, and it's a little bit of a strange kind of setup.
Yeah, I know.
It looks like you've got a split screen.
Yeah, I can only see half my face as well, which isn't a bad thing.
You might need to move it so you get it all in. Look for where the camera is.
Yeah, you can see me now, can you guys?
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Let's get into it. I'm going to hand over.
You want to see the kids jumping in from the left-hand side if they do. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, kids are fine.
They've been locked in another room, you know? They've been locked in another room. I'm just trying to look at where I need to look.
I'm not being funny, but if Warren can eat his lunch when we're starting this, okay, I'm sure the kids will be fine.
Yeah, you know that.
All right, here we go then. Right, so welcome to the show, Kenny.
Thank you.
This is the health angle. We just look at health from the sporting perspective, which means obviously slightly bit different. So we talk about warm-ups and different things like that. But what I'm going to do, because I've already sorted this out with Warren's going to take the lead, and he's going to ask you a few questions, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to sit in the background a bit. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, fantastic. Look
there you go, Warren.
Oh, well, without making you too nervous, I've dug up some dark secrets, so it should make for an interesting call. I'm joking.
How honest do you want me to be?
Truth or dare?
Yeah, you know that.
Look, I mean, you and I, we're in business together, theoretically speaking. However, we've never actually met each other. This is the first time I've only seen you on a numerous amount of Zoom calls, and I've seen your peak physique on there as well with your profile picture. And so I come from a background. I'm from South Africa, and I come from a background where for the last 20 years I've been in the wellness industry on all various levels. Yeah, Paul, stay there. It's better having you on. I like to see the reaction and your face there as a distraction. But I was an aspiring bodybuilder as well when I was a kid. I wanted to become a bodybuilder. When I was in the military in South Africa, I used to tell everybody I'm going to be on stage one day as a bodybuilder, and that was a very short-lived dream, to be honest. because
well, the thing about dreams, Warren, is sometimes they don't have an expiration date.
True. It's only a dream for as long as it remains a dream, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always time. There's time for you yet. There's time for you yet.
There's time for me yet. Oh yes.
I got a pair of trunks you can borrow.
What, those 80s flannel trunks, the 80s flare ones?
You've been checking out my profile, haven't you?
Yeah. So look, I wanted to kind of bring it, as Paul touched on. We want to talk about sports-related health factors, and me having been an athlete in the past and wanting to be an aspiring bodybuilder, but genetically speaking, I don't have it. Okay, so I realized that fairly quickly. And plus, on top of that, when I was in the military, I picked up a chronic injury on both my knees, so that kind of curtailed that. But from a mental perspective, okay, as a guy that gave up bodybuilding for 25 years, all right, and then you get back into the game again. And as a natural bodybuilder, for anybody that doesn't know that's watching this, as a natural bodybuilder, it's exponentially harder than for a bodybuilder that you see as an IFBB pro typically. Not all IFBB pros are that go that way, but for the big guys, the behemoths that you see on stage, as a natural bodybuilder, it's just so much harder to maintain, to build, and and also just to reduce the risk of injuries. You have your own life to deal with. And on top of that, the mental game is a massive factor, because it can be very disheartening and discouraging when you are natural and you're trying to grow. Not everybody has the genetics to grow to the point where you can see significant gains in muscle mass and things like that. But it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse, because there's always a way around it, right? So,
oh yeah.
So tell us from your perspective as somebody who was out of the game for 25 years and then had put on, as you said, 70 pounds, 35 kilos, whatever. What was it like mentally coming back into that arena, with a family, wife, 3 kids? How was it for you to step back into that again?
Well, it's interesting because I always think that the gym has led me to where I am today. I started training when I was like 15, 16. And I had terrible genetics, the worst genetics that you would ever imagine. I was as skinny as a rake. I walked in the gym, everybody looked at me and thought, whoa, even the guy who coached me, I spoke to him years later. He said, Kenny, when you first walked in the gym, out of everyone in the gym, and he'd done this for years, and he said, you were one of the person I would have pointed the finger at and said, this guy will never make it. And he said, after the first night, I realized there was a lot more to you than met the eye. And out of everyone I've trained over the years, you have progressed more than anyone else. He said, and I noticed that from that first night, that you had, this mindset, which was a little bit different to most other people. And to put it in a visual perspective, I used to cycle my bike down to the sports center where I lived, and I literally used to push it home, and it used to take me an hour to push it home because I was absolutely knackered after training for 2 hours. Yeah, and that was like, when I was like 16. And by the time I was 18, obviously I was taking it a lot more serious. And at 19, I was competing. At 20, I was Mr. England, Junior Mr. England, Junior Mr. South Britain. I was ranked in the top 10 as a junior. And then I went on as a Mr. to compete as well. I kind of stopped everything around about 22, something like that, 22. And like you said, I kind of got back into competing around about 25 years later. And it was purely getting back into it for a health reason. It wasn't like, hey, you know what? I want to walk around in a little skimpy kind of a white vest that my wife remembers me in, or my big baggy bottoms or whatever it was, my Ice Cube bottoms. It was purely because I was in a really bad way, with my back. I had been diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. All my discs had worn away. I was in constant pain. I was told I had to have a spinal operation, otherwise I'd be in pain for the rest of my life. I mean, and the pain I was in, I couldn't walk for days. Sometimes I was laid up in bed, and it got that bad that I used to put hot waters on my back to try to alleviate the pain, and I had scarring on my lower back where the heat was just scarring my back. So I was in a really bad way, and I was avoiding exercises because I thought it was just making things worse. And I started training, and something happened. I don't know what it was, but I started doing some things that I was avoiding. I mean, I'd researched a lot on exercises for lower back issues and all this kind of stuff, and something clicked, and it just seemed a little bit easier. Now, in my mind, I was told by a specialist, a back specialist, that I would be in pain for the rest of my life if I didn't have this operation, what they suggested. So that's what I was carrying around psychologically, being told by a professional, this is what you have. But I went and saw a physio, a sports guy, and he was a very good sports guy. He was a professional squash player, so he kind of knew, and he worked with professional athletes and stuff. And I said, look, this is what I've been told. This is what I've tried doing. Please tell me if I'm stupid or if I'm crazy, but I think I can actually make this easier for myself, but I've been carrying around this. I'm in pain for the rest of my life. And he took one look at me, took the shoes off, stepped forward, all that kind of stuff they do. And he said, Kenny, your glutes aren't firing right, your glutes. And he said, I bet this is where you get most of your pain, So with that as soon as he said that, I realized actually I can reverse it. Well, not reverse it. That's a wrong thing. Anyone who's got their disc worn away, they understand they're not going to be growing back. But the pain thing was something massive. You know, I mean, you know, it would be like 15 minutes to get out of bed, crawl out of bed, 15 minutes, see if I could actually walk that time. You know, go to the toilet. It looked like I messed myself. I was in a real bad way. So he gave me these exercises, and I started doing these exercises and started looking into the glute muscles more. And as soon as I started looking into the glute muscles more on YouTube, I started seeing these girls in leggings doing all these fancy exercises. And I'm like, I'm not doing those exercises in the gym that I work, you know, that I train in. So I was training in this gym.
But you'll do them in the leggings, though, right?
Yeah, the leggings.
You'll keep the leggings on.
Yeah, I'm wearing the leggings. Yeah.
Notice he didn't say. He said I won't do the exercises, but he didn't say I won't wear the leggings.
Exactly. Yeah, you know that. Yeah. But I was in the gym really early at this one, about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, when the gym. It was a 24-hour gym, so it was really, really early, and no one was in there. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try these exercises when no one's around. So I started doing some of these exercises that I saw these girls doing on YouTube, and you know, I could really feel it working my glute muscles. So I thought, actually, you know what? I'm going to carry on doing this. And after like a week or so, I need a pillar to sit down. My glute muscles were killing me. And I was like, oh my God, I just worked it so much. But from that day on, and the guys I train now, we all do the same kind of exercises. And I have a joke about it, you know, but it's one of my top 3 exercises, you know, would be working the abductor for my glute muscles, a bent over row for my lower back, you know. And all the time I used to train when I was like 15, 16, all the way up to 22, I always wore a weightlifting belt. Mm-hmm. For the last 5 years, I've never worn a belt, ever. And I'm stronger now on my back, on my lower back, than ever before. And it's all about technique, posture, you know, and making sure that I'm putting my body in a position where I'm supporting my lower back and keeping it safe, you know, and I'm not making anything worse. And I would say, I mean, I don't want to touch you. There's nothing to touch wood, but I can't remember the last time I had a backache. Now, I never had the operation, and we know my disc would never have kind of grown back, so to speak. And I know I've got to be careful with the kids running around, you know, that sometimes it's a bit chaotic. All it takes is a knock in the back, a jarring, and I know my back, here we go again. But it's never like it was. And I can't remember, like I say, touch wood, I cannot remember the last time I had a back problem, a backache, or getting up in the morning. It took me more than like 2 seconds to get out of bed. You know, so when I'm looking at
those videos. Sorry, you need to send me those videos, because I struggle with the same thing. I understand exactly what you're saying.
You know, and so whenever I'm working with my guys now and girls, whatever it is, like say posture, technique, and these exercises, I explain to them, and they know, you know, and they're all exactly the same. No one has back issues. No one, because we're working on posture. We're not worried about weight, the kind of weight we're lifting, you know. And like you said, Warren, you know, I mean, as a natural athlete, you know, when I started competing, the reason I started competing was I started getting back into, you know, training. And I thought to myself, how can I make this more tricky for myself? How can I, you know, up the ante a little bit? And I thought to myself, well, why don't I compete again? I've not competed for 25 years. I've got nothing to lose. You know, I might as well compete. And I think then I was like 48, 49, something like that. I'm 52 this year. Well, maybe 47, 48, something like that. So I looked around and I thought to myself, there's no way I'm competing with these guys who, you know, taking what they take. I mean, you know, as a natural kind of athlete, I compete at around about 165. You know, so you're looking around about 12 stone, but that's obviously ripped. There's not that's not an ounce of fat. And when I started, you know, 5 years ago to get the weight back, like you said, I was around about 230 pounds, 230 to 165. You're looking around about that kind of there's a fair amount of weight, and I realized the more weight I carry around my midsection, the more painful it was on my back. So at the moment, I'm weighing around about 190, 195. I was getting ready for a show this year. I was going to compete this year. I started getting ready for it last year. And obviously with what's going on, all the gyms are shut down, everything. and that we're not even sure if the competition's going ahead. So I will compete again. You know, I competed 2 years ago, and the only two people who beat me that when I competed both went on to become world champions. You know, so when you're competing with the best in the world, I mean, and you know, when you look at the UK guys have got some amazing. We've probably got the best natural bodybuilders. If you look at all the world champions, they're pretty much UK based. You know, so I mean, we've got some serious athletes here, and when you step on stage with some of these guys, it's, you know, it's 60, 70, you know, even the 60-year-olds are like, they blow my mind. I mean, the last time I competed, there's about like 10 of us, you know, and in the middle of the show, the compere stopped the show, and he said, listen, there's one guy on this stage who should be in the over 60s, but unfortunately we didn't have enough people to do a class, so he's competing with the over 50s in our group. Can anyone guess who he is? So we were all looking around, you know, and this guy stepped forward, and he was standing next to me, and I swear this guy was better than most 20-year-olds. He looked phenomenal. I mean, I think he placed third in our class. I come second in that class. But honestly, I looked at him and I was like, Jesus, you know, this guy's 60. And it took me back to when I was like 18. And I walked to the gym. And I was walking to the gym, and where I was, there was like a sports center. They had all these squash courts, and you walk past the squash courts down this narrow corridor, and the gym was right at the back, and you could hear the clanging of the weights. You know, they kept all the monsters out the back, kind of thing. And I heard the clanging of this iron, you know, and as like an 18-year-old, I was like, oh, this is it, you know. I mean, and so I walked to the gym. And there's a little slot of glass in the door, you know, one of those doors with the glass in there. And I looked through the glass, and there was this little old guy benching, and one guy, and he was benching, and I was watching this guy for maybe a minute or so. He finished his set. I went into the gym, put my bag down, and I went over to him and I said, look, you know, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old are you? You know, and he said, I think he's like 90 odd. And I was like, Jesus, you know, that's how I want to be. And from that early age, I realized that's how I wanted to be, you know, and it's always been with me. I mean, although I didn't compete, I've always worked out, you know, and so getting back into competition, competing was just a way of testing myself. Really, that's all it was. Now, you know, I understand what health is, because I always thought health and fitness were one, but we understand to be healthy isn't necessarily about being fit, you know, and having that kind of great looking physique is definitely nothing to do with health, and nothing to do with probably more fitness maybe, you know. But, you know, when I've been backstage and I've been listening to the guys talking, most of them are hanging. Most of the guys are just waiting to finish, to get to the wimpy, or, you know, eat whatever they can. For me,
whatever they can get their hands on.
That's it, you know. And for me, you know, to compete, when I was a youngster, maybe 12 weeks to get ready for a show. As a natural athlete now, maybe 30, 40 weeks to actually get ready for a competition. That's a long time of dieting, you know. But if you do it that way, by the time you get there, actually, I mean, I think I was eating nearly 3,000 calories, you know, when I actually on the day of the competition, up to that point. So on 3,000 calories, that's a lot of food to be eating, you know. So if you do it the right way, you can feel okay as well, you know. But I would definitely say most people kind of get to that stage in as short a period as they possibly can, and then they're going to have issues, you know. And like we said, this has definitely got nothing to do with health. You know, walking around ripped to pieces have got nothing to do with health. And over the last 6 months, I've actually realized what health is about, you know. And I feel great getting up in the morning, you know, not being in pain. But I think a lot of that is down to my nutrition and the way I kind of approach life, and possibly, you know, some of the things I'm taking, you know. And as a natural athlete, you know, like you touched on this, everything we consume has to be approved by WADA, you know. So I can't just take supplements. I can't just go into a health shop and start taking a load of supplements, because you can be banned for 7 years.
Of
You know, you
course.
can be banned for 7 years. Even as a natural athlete, you don't get paid nothing. You get a little plastic trophy or a little metal trophy. There's nothing for it. You know, all that all that dieting for like half an hour on stage, you know, it costs you a fortune. You're covered in boot polish, you know, and all this kind of stuff. You know,
It's WADA. Is that the World Anti-Doping Association or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything has to be approved. So I mean, there's only probably half a dozen products I actually use as supplements. You know, I mean, and they're probably not related to bodybuilding per se, apart from a protein powder that I take. And my friend owns the company, and it's all natural products. So I know behind the products, you know, and it's all being tested. You know, it's good stuff. Yeah. But the other stuff, you know, yeah, absolutely, mate. You know, but no, I you know, coming back to you, what you said, you know, with the knee issues, I had a back issue, you know.
I struggle with my back. I have scoliosis, and for me, lower back issues is an ongoing thing. And I also know my glutes do not fire properly. I mean, I noticed it probably about 2-3 years ago. Yeah, before I used to have a bit of a booty. Then all of a sudden, it started looking like a ski slope. I was like, "What's going on there?" And I've been working. I've been working on trying to figure out which part of my glutes is not firing up properly and what exercise I could be doing, but I haven't found the right one yet for myself. So perhaps I need to take some tips from you, get some ideas on some exercises as to what I could be doing. But, you know, I mean, I train every day. I train out in the park. I was just saying to Paul now, I use an apparatus from Germany. It's a reactive suspension trainer. So it's like a bungee suspension trainer. I do body weight training. So I train every day. But yeah, this is an ongoing thing for me as well, is the lower back. I understand that. It's for me, I got to stretch when I get out of bed in the morning, and then I kind of get out because my hips are so tight and stuff like that. But away from me and more back to you, and it's just something you touched on in a video that I saw of you, and I was doing some dark research into you. Is you talk about support group. Now you touched on it just now when you walked into the gym. You painted the picture. You go through past the squash courts, and you know, my first gym was a garage gym. Literally, it was in an underground car park, and there was a gym built into the side there, and it was real hardcore. And I used to train with these guys that had absolutely no idea what they're doing, but they just put on muscle like crazy, you know. And then one day I went into a polished gym, and I bumped into this gentleman, and we got talking. He kind of liked my vibe. I was in my early 20s, and it turned out that this guy used to train with Arnold and Frank Zane. Wow. And some of the old school South African,
like Reg Parks and all those guys.
Reg Parks, exactly. So he knew Reg Parks personally and that. And this guy was in his 60s at the time, I think 50s, late 50s, and he was in fantastic shape as well. And he just kind of became like a mentor for me, you know. And I had no one else to support me. I had no one else to guide me or anything like that. So just explain to folks as well, you know, especially for let's say, take away from the bodybuilding side, and you have the average Joe Soap who now understands the value of health and fitness and the mental game behind that and what it takes to. It's like same like a diet, right? If you have a family of 5 and one person's on a diet trying to lose fat, it's very difficult if they're the only person that's following a program. So just explain to the average folks out there on the street, you know, what is it, how important is it to have some kind of support team or support group around you that can keep pushing you and keep motivating you to keep following on with your dream and aspiration and whatever that looks like?
It's so important to have a support group. I mean, I've seen people who I've been coaching for quite some time, and they train really hard. They train really hard in the gym. You know, in fact, some of them are like they're the hardest. You know, and they just cannot shift the weight. And we've sat down for hours and explaining everything, and they know how it's done. They know it. They know what they need to do. They know what they need to do. But unfortunately, the home support around that person is not there. None of the family are on the same journey. So they're all eating processed foods and stuff and takeaways every night. And that person is not making any changes. And when they talk to the partner and the partner says to the person, why are you wasting your money? You know, because you're not changing. And the person turns around and says, it's not the coach. It's not my efforts. It's home life. You know, and they've had conversations. It's so important that you're all on the same page. I mean, I'm very, very lucky that my wife supports me the way she does, cooks me, whatever. And the other day she said, so what do you want to eat this week? What do you want to eat? You know, and I'm back into my curries.
Oh.
But yeah, I love my curries. I love curries, you know. And you know, once I find something I love, I'm like a little Duracell bunny. I just kind of get wound up and I can just keep going and keep going and keep doing the same thing and keep eating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and again, you know? And so I find something that I love eating that's obviously taking me towards my goals, you know? And then the guys around me, my family, you know, they understand maybe that I might not necessarily be eating with them all the time because a lot of the times I might reduce the amount of food and the amount of meals I'm eating, not food I'm eating. And I like eating large meals, you know, so me, if I don't eat like 1,000 to 1,500 calorie meal, I'm kind of thinking to myself, oh, I need some more. So if I'm eating 1,000, 1,500 calories, but I'm eating those 2 meals, I'm quite comfortable to eat at 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you know, so a very small window. So you see, I do a lot of intermittent fasting. You know, so I can go quite easy to 12 o'clock from 4 o'clock. So almost like a 20-hour fast. You know,
and
so
intermittent fasting. This is intermittent fasting. Sorry, this is when people need as much support as possible, because this has become such a prevalent part of health and fitness today. You know, and yet
we're actually going to do it. We actually will do a show on intermittent fasting. So Kenny, you'll have to come back.
I've practiced intermittent fasting. I've worked with clients doing intermittent fasting.
Yep.
I did it for 6 months non-stop at one stage. But then I realized I was doing the wrong type of intermittent fasting for me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, everybody's different. Yeah. We're all different. Yeah. 100%.
So, but when you're fasting, the amount of mental stress that you go through is, you know, the smell of food can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, so it's even more important to have that support.
So I try to get my metabolism ramped up as fast as I possibly can. So I'm trying not to cut calories. I'm pushing my metabolism. I'm not worried about losing weight, you know, because I know that will come. And I give myself such a long period of time to do it, that I'm pushing those calories as much as I possibly can to a tipping point. And then when the weight starts coming down, I know where I am. So usually around about 2,700, 2,800 calories to 3,000 calories, you know, is where I can actually kind of drop body fat, you know. And I don't do much cardio, you know. So whereas before I've sat on a bike for half an hour, watched a film on a spinning bike. I've got a spinning bike or an hour or whatever it is. And you can do that, and it's going to work on your fitness levels. But the way I kind of thought was, well, actually, if I'm burning these calories, all I need to do is reduce the calories a little bit, and then I don't need to do that kind of that work, because it might not necessarily be helping me build muscle. You know, maybe I'm actually working too much, and I'm kind of burning that muscle up, as it were.
Of course,
so I've kind of got an old kind of bodybuilder's mindset of trying to eat as much as I possibly can. Trying to rest. I've always had a sleep midday, you know, around about 12. I go and have a little power nap. I've done that ever since I was like 16, 17. It's always helpful.
It's amazing. I love power naps.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, you know, you close your eyes and think, actually, I don't even know if I slept. The last week I was sleeping for like 40 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, Jesus, I'm getting some real good sleep here. I'm almost like a baby again, you know. I try to keep things simple. You know, in the gym, I try to keep things simple. My food, I try to keep simple. You know, I try to keep it easy. The most important thing is I love what I eat. I have to love what I eat. If I don't love what I eat, then I'm going to find that it's difficult to stick to it. You know, so when I'm working with guys as well, or girls, ladies, I don't necessarily write them a diet nutrition plan, although I do that as well. I can do that. What I try to do is log into, what they're eating on a daily basis, maybe MyFitnessPal or something like that, to see what they're eating. And there needs to be a lot of honesty and trust there. And they have to understand I'm not judging them for what they're eating. I'm just trying to show them how they can change a few little bits, a flexible kind of, flexible. Yeah. Because, we both know, Warren, and like you've just touched on it, we're all different. So me eating once a day, or me eating twice a day, or me eating 3 times a day, or 6 times a day, I find something that works for me. Me in a keto diet, or me in this diet, or this, or this, or this. I need to find something that works for me. And on the whole, a calorie deficit is all we need to be, a slight calorific deficit to start shifting a little bit of body fat. But then obviously we've got to understand the journey, the amount of time. So it's not like actually Friday's coming, I'm going to eat a load of Haribos and a couple of burgers because it's my cheat day now. And I've lost 2 pounds, but I put 3 pounds back on. And then the following week it's like, okay, my weight, what's going on? Actually, you don't need a cheat day. You've got 40 pounds to lose. You've got 40 pounds of body fat to lose.
I mean, yeah.
This is it. And this is it. Some people I speak to, I say, what happens then? And they, well, Friday night I have my curry. Saturday I'm Sunday, Monday morning. I'm like, that's not the weekend. That's half the week. Have a cheat meal. Have a cheat meal. If you need a cheat meal, have a cheat meal or a cheat time zone between this time and that time. Eat what you want between that time and that time. If you're going to have something sweet, have it after you've eaten your main meal. So I'll still eat my main meals. I'll still have my curry or whatever. But if I want a bag of Haribos, then I'll eat it after. So my insulin spiked up a little bit. Yeah, sure, with the food, but it's not necessarily spiking up by the Haribos. And my body will kind of just consume those calories.
Love the way you say a bag of Haribos. I used to, if I have like 6 Haribos, I'm going on a sugar nut.
Yeah.
But I used to.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Our daughter was, and I'm the same as you. I can have the same breakfast every morning if I have, because I typically have breakfast after I've trained, so which is later on in the morning, and but I can have the same breakfast. I can eat omelets every day. I'll just mix up what I cook it with, chilies, peri curry, whatever, and I mix
something
up potatoes.
Spicy. You like it? Yeah, you like it something spicy.
I like a good vindaloo.
Yeah,
but
you know that.
And I'm like you, I can have the same food day in and day out, each and every single day. So, and when we were living in Dubai and our daughter was first sampling sweets, like ice cream and stuff like that. So I would be doing my intermittent fasting throughout the week. And then every Friday, because it's the first day of the weekend in Dubai. So every Friday is the first day. And then we would have Friday would be cheat day.
Yes.
Yeah. So she would know every Friday we can have ice cream now because that would be my day. Ice cream.
Yeah.
So there was
it's amazing how kids are. Kids are amazing. My daughter, she's like 5. I've got 3 children. One is 8, one is 10. 2 boys, and my daughter, the youngest, is 5. And we allow her a sleepover because she likes a little sleepover with mummy at the weekend. So she was like, "How many days to the weekend, mummy? Is it when's the week?" And so it's the same. They're very clever. They're very astute. Okay, for 3 days. All right, then I can have my sleepover. And we allow the children sweets. Obviously, very, 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 very rarely do they have any kind of fizzy drinks. They usually just drink water, maybe a very little amount of high juice or something like aspartame free. But I mean, sure, they have the odd sweets, maybe once a week kind of thing, but nothing too much. We have a lot of fruit, they eat a lot of the fruit, and that's just the way they know no different. They know no different,
It's natural for them,
100%, and I think that's when you hear, but it's for the kids, that's for the kids. Really, you feed your kids all this? I mean, that's supposed to be a treat. You're like 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pound overweight, but you're buying this for your kids. It might not necessarily be giving them the same kind of, the right kind of meaning. And I'm not knocking anyone, but a lot of the times we've got to look at ourselves. We've got to look at ourselves and we've got to put our hands up and say, and you know what? So I was watching someone's Zoom recording the other day, and he was talking about this young child who had a blood test result, of 66 to 1 or something. And it kind of it blew my mind that a young child would be so out of balance, like 66 to 1 out of balance. I was like, wow, what is this kid been eating? You know, this young child been eating to get 66 out with a blood test. I was blown away. I mean, I've seen some high results with children, but with that, I was just totally blown away.
That's like the
About
road to
10
hell, that is.
Yeah, man.
Mate.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, there was a story out of Texas where a girl, all her life, from the moment she basically was able to eat solubles, the only food she ate was KFC.
Wow.
It was the only food she ever ate until she got to the age of 12, and her body just collapsed.
Wow.
Her organs, everything just poof. That's it.
Yeah.
Our daughter, she knows. Thankfully, she knows McDonald's, burger. She won't even. She hears the word McDonald's. She goes, ugh. You know?
Yeah.
Fizzy
Mate,
drinks.
I was
She's
done.
never.
Absolutely. Same here. I mean, sure, we have barbecues and we make our own burgers and stuff like that, but
It's completely different. It's completely different.
yeah, you know, the 100%. I'm just going to change my headset. So
I think we need to. We need to start wrapping up now. In any case, yeah.
I've
cool.
just got a couple of things I want to ask you, Kenny, before we
Yes,
wrap
mate.
up, if that's okay.
Of course.
Would you say that doing bodybuilding, you've got to have some intense discipline?
I think for any kind of activity that you want to maybe take to a competitive kind of level, I think it takes discipline. Any kind of thing, you know, whatever it is, you know, there needs to be discipline. Building a model, there needs to be discipline. Reading the book, you need to be disciplined if you don't necessarily like reading. You know, developing muscle is just it's just a higher kind of level of discipline, because it's difficult to control everything we eat, and so that really needs to be on point. You know, you need to train hard. You need to take the body to a level of maybe where most people aren't prepared to go, where it's really uncomfortable. You know, to get to provoke a response in the muscle fiber, you know, for it to actually kind of respond. Especially like Warren was saying, as a natural athlete, it's hard. Everything needs to be on point. If you're not getting the right nutrition, your body's very clever and it'll take it from somewhere else. If you're not if you're trying to develop your bicep and you're not eating correctly, it'll take something from your leg or your chest or whatever. The muscle fibers, it'll break it down, protein, and rebuild. It's like having 100 Lego bricks. You've got 100 Lego bricks and you're not going to add any more Lego bricks, but you want to build something bigger. No, it's not going to happen. You have to break down something to rebuild it. So you've got to constantly be making sure you've got the right amount of nutrition, protein, carbs, and fats, and all those kind of things on a daily basis, all the time. It's not like, okay, 3 times a week, you know, it needs to be there all the time. So that's where it takes a little bit different discipline on the food side of things, especially when you're 50 years old with a family, and it's a kind of hobby, as it were. You know, it's not a profession. It's not a way of earning money. It's just a way of feeling good, looking good about yourself. So it does take a level of discipline, but it's no different than anything else. I mean, you know, I touched on someone playing squash. If that squash player wants to play competition, then they probably put a bit more effort into it, a bit more discipline. They want to step it up to county level, then they've got to start looking at things a bit differently. And want to really take it up to national level, then I would have thought that the amount of discipline is across the board. So yeah, it does take discipline, mate.
Yeah, great. And is it about losing weight and building muscle mass?
What, bodybuilding?
Yeah.
Bodybuilding, I think bodybuilding for me is a way of life. You know, it's a way of life. You know, I've embraced this for many, many years. It's always been with me. It helps me with my back issues now. It's like a relationship that's always going to be there for you. You know, it's never going to turn its back on you. It is a feel good factor. You do feel good, you know, and it's good to be able to run around with the kids and do things. You know, like I said, I have got young kids, so I try to do a lot of things with them, skateboarding and what have you, you know, and we train together every day. I mean, we homeschool our children, you know, so they don't go to school. We teach them from home. We've taught them from home from day one. They've never been to school. So we do martial arts every day. You know, I coach them martial arts. We do training, kitchen workouts every day. You know, we do our English, our maths, and all those stuff, and blah blah blah. So it's very much a family thing. So I kind of lost track of what the question was there.
Is it about
lose fat, build muscle mass?
Okay. Obviously, to build muscle, you need a certain level of weight to work with weights. You need to. You can't just pick up a tennis racket and start building muscle. You can pick up a tennis racket and start building your forearms, you know, or squash racket and build your forearms. And if you look at some squash players, they've got predominantly a bigger arm than the other arm, you know. So any exercise, or football players, you look at the muscularity in their legs, or cyclists, speed cyclists, they've got big legs. But if we're looking at people on the whole, to build muscle, it's usually with weights. And to burn body fat, you don't necessarily need to be a bodybuilder to burn body fat. Absolutely, but they kind of go hand in hand if you want to take it to a competitive kind of stage. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to lose the fat if you have more muscle. So it's
absolutely, yeah. You're burning more calories, 100%.
This is why 100%. Bodybuilders very often they can shift from there to here. Very.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, that's 100% right.
All right. Well,
I have one more question. I have one more question.
I was going to say, I haven't got anything else to say. So, Warren, if you want to finish up, and then we'll.
What martial art are you a two-dan black belt in?
I've studied martial arts pretty much all my life, doing different martial arts. I started with Goju-Ryu karate. I've done Laogar kung fu. The two black belts I've got are actually in street fighting. You know, so I was actually following a Spanish street fighting Urban X KFM system, and that's why I got my black belts in street fighting. And
not Krav Maga or anything like that.
Like that, very similar to that. Yeah. So very, very similar to that. So it's kind of cool, you know, quite uncomfortable, but yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's meant to be, right?
I don't know any of those. I've done some Bushido. Bushido?
Oh, Bushido's very nice.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. I don't Kofen Jitsu, you know, so like you say, you know, weapons training and stuff. But yeah, I've done
Aikido, Taekwondo, and kickboxing. So
brilliant. Yeah. Aikido, you know, brilliant. All martial arts are great. You know,
I was just thinking.
Bodybuilding is a form of martial art as well. Bodybuilding.
If we're going to start when we sell products a bit later on, maybe depends on how things go. I was just thinking. They'll have to buy them because we just beat them up.
Yeah, well, that's what martial arts about, is it? It's about not wanting to fight, not having to fight. Yeah,
they're all turning off.
You out there first. You can get out there first. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, gents, thanks for today. It's been great. Kenny, we're gonna have you back on because we will talk about intermittent fasting, and I have to say I know absolutely nothing about it at all, but you two seem to. So it seems I've got more research to do. So anyway, let's call it a day, and thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Lovely talking to you, Warren. See you guys later.
Cheers.
Have a great evening. Good luck with the kids.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Right, we're on. Ken.